What's up Neon Nation, welcome back to the Neon Arcade for a brand new video. Today we're going to be comparing Cyberpunk 2077 and Red Dead Redemption 2 to understand which game is going to be more ambitious on both a micro and macro level. Now I understand this is a Cyberpunk 2077 channel, but it's also a no bullshit channel, so I'm going to fairly compare and contrast them by laying out all the facts and approach this video as unbiased and objective as possible. Starting off with the development team, Cyberpunk 2077 is being created by CD Projekt Red, whose team is around 300 people. They've added 50 people since developing The Witcher 3, which had 100 plus hours of content, as well as assimilating another team from developers Strange New Things and Rockstar to help on the project. The game has been in production since 2012, but only in full production since 2016 after the Blood and Wine DLC was released for The Witcher. Now, major player Rockstar Games has been working on Red Dead Redemption for the better part of 7 to 8 years and boasts a nauseating amount of people working on the project. Rockstar has consolidated all their teams into one working on Red Dead 2. Rockstar is best known for their GTA series and have made successful open worlds, with many having online add-ons after launch. Rich in content, Rockstar is known for making games that receive perfect scores across the board. Now, both these developers create fully fleshed out worlds and are at the top of their game. They are expert at crafting their experiences, and they are generally heralded by consumers as having little to no flop titles. Now, judging by the sheer numbers here, Rockstar Games is heavily favored due to the insanity of the development time and the sheer manpower. In this sense, the workforce at Rockstar Games trumps CD Projekt Red's, but it makes sense because the company is just larger to begin with. Now, having more hands on deck doesn't necessarily mean a better product, as they can fall into the too many cooks in the kitchen territory, but to say it isn't a huge advantage over CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk 2077 would be very narrow-sighted. Next, we have the worlds of both of these games. From a strictly environmental design level, the Cyberpunk genre and Cyberpunk 2077 are both dipped in mind-numbing stimulatory designs. The sheer density, scale, height, and world of Cyberpunk inevitably lends itself much more to a more ambitious world and lore creation. Red Dead Redemption 2 is nothing to scoff at either, as the photorealism of New Mexico, Texas, and the southern states are horizontally vast, and in this sense, this department is the butting heads of two games on the opposite side of the spectrum. 2077 boasts density, vertical scale, and a city and infrastructure only previously seen in, ironically, GTA, Rockstar's premier title. In the same vein, Red Dead Redemption 2 boasts vast deserts, horizontal scale, and barren wastelands, swamps, and mountain ranges. This can be chalked up to preference, but based on what we've seen in gaming landscapes before, I think 2077 will take the edge here, as it's really pushing new boundaries. It helps that the world is a more naturally extravagant and loaded place, and you can't really compete with the world who's based in bringing impossibilities to life. Now, gameplay and the details within gameplay is something that is hotly contested between these two titles, with Red Dead Redemption 2 being somewhat iconic for having horse testicles that shrink according to weather, and there being 200 species of animals, as well as hunting, fishing, casinos, plays, five-finger fillets, and other interactive minigames being a big part. It seems they've covered all the bases. Even when skinning animals for pelts, you go through the entire animation, and the pelt will sell higher or lower based on where you administered the kill shot and if the pelt has been damaged. Your personal hygiene also comes into play, with your character getting treated differently based on if he's muddied up from a long trek across the swamp via horseback versus fresh out of the barbershop. It's yet to be seen if Cyberpunk 2077 will have the same resounding amount of side activities to do that aren't narrative driven, but it will be an uphill climb coming close to matching Red Dead Redemption, which looks like it will be setting the gold standard in this department. Now, strictly gameplay wise, Cyberpunk 2077 offers a wide variety of versatility and options to play with here that Red Dead Redemption might not, being bound to an old school western setting. Reflex boosters, cyberware, combat drugs and stimulants, and an array of exotic vehicles play into the wheelhouse of this cyberpunk world. Red Dead has similar slow motion shooting mechanics called the Deadeye, which is akin to Cyberpunk's reflex boosters, but for the most part it seems to be a straight shooter. Now, all the animations and fluidity is something that gives Red Dead Redemption the upper hand at this point, being so close to release, versus the year and change we'll most likely have to wait for 2077. Cyberpunk is also a true RPG, and in this sense will offer a variety of ways to play through a fluid class system. Dialogue options are also fluid based on where you look when engaged in dialogue. Red Dead Redemption 2 offers the transition to swap between third person and first person to please all kinds of tastes and preferences, while CDPR has doubled down on first-person perspective for the immersion they seek to offer their audience. Red Dead has the upper hand on gameplay based on the world and environment, whilst 2077 may offer more in terms of the actual shooting mechanics and gunfights. Story-wise, CD Projekt Red seems to have a better reputation for narrative development than Rockstar, judging on more recent titles. They've also gotten better as a developer since The Witcher 1, with every game released after being a certain margin better than the last. Rockstar has a formula that works for them as a more established developer, and although their games content-wise are second to none, their side quests and stories aren't as renowned as Red's. They do, however, have 1,000 different NPC voice actors, which could mean they want to focus on story and character development more than ever. In 2077, there are issues like cyberpsychosis, megacorp-centric greed, and high-tech low-life plotlines that give diversity over betrayal, gang rivalry, and survival in a Western-styled game. Again, down to personal preference, but the genre of cyberpunk lends itself to potentially explore issues that have yet to be fully fleshed out in a game. Now, there are still things like Red Dead Online versus Cyberpunk Online and potential comparisons there, and what kind of game Cyberpunk would be with all of Rockstar's workforce, or what kind of game Red Dead Redemption 2 be with only 300 people on the project, but all of these are either to be determined or speculated about only. Now, considering the size difference between studios, I think CD Projekt Red is doing a fine job nipping at the heels of Rockstar. I think there's an argument for this project being more ambitious based on the fact that CDPR is even comparable to Rockstar. Then again, there's also the argument that Red Dead Redemption 2 has spent 8 years marinating and steeping in the collective brain juice of Rockstar's brightest, and that the game is going to be executed flawlessly and in line with Rockstar's pedigree for making games that have gotten perfect scores across the board. CDPR has 100% focus on their new IP in Cyberpunk 2077, whilst Rockstar has to split their resources between the upkeep of GTA Online, so we'll have to see who paid more attention to even the smallest details in their game. CP 2077 may go the more adventurous route as well in terms of releases, with 2077 possibly being a cross-generational title and thus better fidelity in the long run. There's also a PC release alongside current gen, something that Rockstar is not doing with the initial release of Red Dead Redemption 2 being only on the PS4 and Xbox One. Now, moving on to the bottom line, we all win as game players. Both of these developers are showing that single player games aren't dead and continue to innovate and execute creativity through production. Obviously, people are going to have a preference for one world over the other, and for many of them, that's going to be their bottom line. Do yourself a favor, however, and get both. That's it for me. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.